Today on Notsam Wrestling, the Tribal Chief, the original Tribal Chief Roman Reigns is back on Smackdown. We know who both Cody and Gunther will face at Bash in Berlin. The Wyatt Sicks are wrestling. And what about this build-up to All In, huh? This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. And so much has already happened this week. It feels like SummerSlam is a distant memory. Although it was days ago at this point. A week. What's a week? Well, here we are as we go straight towards the Bash in Berlin, and we know who our world title matches will be. And as a matter of fact, leading up to SummerSlam, Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton were technically off the card because of the attacks from the Bloodline. They ended up showing themselves during that Bloodline Rules match, but now are co-main eventing this next premium live event, which does, go back to a point that we had made a few weeks ago about these premium live events having limited matches, which means not everybody gets on them, but that's okay, because it's not like they get forgotten about. There's a spot for them at the next show. So we'll start with, we'll get there. We'll have a conversation about both, right? We're on Smackdown. And Cody Rhodes comes out, the American Nightmare. Whoa! And here comes the Bloodline, ready to attack him. There's three of them. He's only one man, but here comes Kevin Owens with a steel chair to fight off the Bloodline. And Cody Rhodes, before dispersing, he asked them to shut the music off and says, "Wait, Kevin, this may be an awkward conversation, but I need to have it with you." And I'm going, uh-oh. That's how my father started a conversation with me. Well, I won't even tell you what that one was about, but he says, "Kevin Owens, I'm looking for an opponent for my undisputed WWE Championship at Bash in Berlin, and you are that man." And my first thought was, why does Cody Rhodes keep doing this to himself? Why, if you're champion, I've never seen a champion be so careless with his title. We were already having, I felt like for weeks, conversations about Cody jumping into rings full of Samoans and how it was a dumb thing to do. It's not going to end up well. And then we get to the week before SummerSlam, and Solo Sikoa just says, "Hey, let's do Bloodline Rules." And Cody Rhodes goes, "Okay." And it's like, why? If I was champion and somebody was like, from the Bloodline, was like, "Hey, let's do Bloodline Rules," I'd go, "No. How about not? Okay? I'm the champion. You're coming to me. I don't understand what you're negotiating with here." And then a week later, but it does always work out for Cody. In the end, it always works out for Cody. And so maybe he knows something that we don't. Maybe he's just a different, but I worry. Because just because you keep winning doesn't mean you're going to continue to win. So then he turns around and he goes, "Hey, who's a guy who's held the title, who's the toughest son of a bitch on SmackDown? Oh, Kevin Owens. Why don't you try to get my title from me?" And he's like, "I don't even want to. I don't even deserve it." Because Kevin Owens goes back to being one of my favorite wrestlers on the program. He's the only one that follows rule number 1, which is watch the product. Kevin Owens watches the show. He knows that there are going to be people going, well, if you look at Kevin Owens' win-loss record lately, I don't think that he would rank as a number 1 contender. And Kevin Owens goes, "I know, I watch the shows too. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how I walk in here." He doesn't want to be a Nepo baby. He doesn't want to get a title shot just because he's Cody Rhodes' pal, just because he's had Cody's back. But Cody says, "Well, I'm going to go over your head, and I'm going to talk to Nick Aldis." And I'm like, why is Cody fighting so hard to get in the ring with somebody who destroys people? And maybe I'm not the fighting champion that Cody is, but if I were Cody Rhodes, I'd be like, and I could just pick my own opponents, I'd be like, what about Angel Garza? How about, I think I'd like to wrestle him. Something like that, I couldn't beat Angel, but I think Cody could. So it's interesting because in my head as I'm watching, I go, I wonder what Randy Orton's going to think about this and why he didn't come out to help Cody. And then I remembered, of course, because he showed up on Monday night and challenged Gunther for the World Heavyweight title over on Raw, which generally wouldn't make sense because he's not a Raw superstar. But everything counts. My own rules were worked against me. Do you remember Megan Morant and I did an immediate reaction show after SummerSlam? And she said, don't forget, we're going to get Randy versus Gunther. And I was like, I mean, what are you talking about? And she goes, well, Triple H said at King of the Ring, when Gunther won that match, while the referee was counting, even though Randy's shoulders weren't down, Triple H said, I don't know what that referee saw that we didn't see, but referee's decision is final. However, I do think that we're definitely going to have to run this back at some point. And the fact that that was, whenever it was, May, I think May, maybe, the fact that that happened then, and there hasn't been one word about it, led me to believe that this was kind of a classic thing that we have seen before in WWE under a different regime, where it's like, what are you talking about? All these goldfish are watching our show. They're never going to remember. Let's just not mention it and move on. But I forgot that they're doing my own rule now. They're watching the product. I forgot rule number 3. Everything counts. It's no more goldfish show. It's no more, hey, look over here and we'll forget about what happened that way. We don't do things that way anymore. It's so like rewarding as somebody that watches the show. And so Megan Morant gets props for that because she's the only one I saw that called it. That was like, what about Randy? Because Randy comes out and he goes, hey, remember King of the Ring? Because even though nobody's been talking about it, I do. And I've decided that since I'm Randy Orton and I'm a smart guy, that when Triple H said we're going to run that match back, Randy decided to just sit in the cut. Why would you, if the winner of the King of the Ring tournament is guaranteed a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship, why would you go for your rematch before he gets the shot at the World Heavyweight Championship? Why wouldn't you go for it when he either has won the World Heavyweight Championship or at least you gave him the opportunity to? So Randy picks the perfect slot. As soon as he wins the World Heavyweight Championship, he goes, oh, all right, now's a good time. I'll take my rematch, please, and thank you. And I go, everything counts. That's a beautiful thing. Now, I go back to SmackDown because we go back and Cody's talking to Nick Aldis, and he goes, I want to fight Kevin Owens at Bash in Berlin. And Nick Aldis is like, well, this is going to get complicated because I was planning on talking to Roman Reigns about giving Roman Reigns a title match. And again, Kevin Owens, who's the one guy that watches the show, goes, what are you talking about? Just because everybody's excited to see this guy back, I get it. He was champion for 3.5 years, but he terrorized us. Everybody had him beat. And then he used outside interference. He had one of the Bloodline guys come in. Are you kidding me? Roman Reigns has not had the title for what, 5 months? And your memory's been erased? We've forgotten how he held everybody hostage? We're just ready to forgive him because time heals all wounds, and apparently that time is 5 months? No way. You're crazy. I don't deserve the match necessarily, but I know. And then he goes, what, because he's got a rematch clause that hasn't been enforced in forever? And I go, yeah, Kevin Owens watches the product. Nick Aldis goes, okay, and the match is set. Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens. Now, there was a criticism that immediately arises with this, and I think it's a founded criticism, that save for Solo Sikoa, and there's been doubters of Cody Rhodes. I am not a Cody Rhodes doubter, by the way, but there have been doubters of Cody Rhodes and his reign. And the doubters would point out that Cody hasn't done anything as exciting as the Bloodline story since the Bloodline story. And therefore, his reign as WWE champion is brought into question. And I think it's totally fair to bring it into question. And I think it's totally fair to point out that that's 100% true. And that there is this thing where every title match that Cody has had, he's defended it on, I think, every single premium live event. And he's been the fighting champion that he promised that he would be. He's had matches on television. It's been phenomenal. But every match that he's had has been a match in which I have deep respect for my opponent and may the better man win. AJ Styles. Yes, AJ turned heel. Yes, AJ attacked Cody Rhodes, but ultimately, this was a clash between two who respected each other, and, well, Cody had to prove that he was the best. You had the Logan Paul story, which wasn't really so much a story as, well, Logan, you're better than anybody would have given you credit for, and you've done phenomenally. You've done fantastically, but, well, I'm going to prove to you that you're just not that guy yet, or prove to myself that I am, and by golly, I'm going to beat Logan Paul. And he has this match with Carmelo Hayes. I don't think it was a title match on TV. He goes, Carmelo, I see a lot in you, and you're going to be great, but I don't think tonight's your night, and I'm going to go ahead and prove it in that ring. And then, the bloodline story rears its ugly head again with Solo Sikoa. And then, seemingly, as soon as the bloodline story is over, Cody's back to saying, well, gee, Kevin, I respect you, and I think you're the best. I've got to prove to myself that I'm the best, and therefore, I'd like to defend my title against you. And every match has been, well, I respect you, and I think you respect me, but let's see who the better man is on that night. I personally cannot believe that we're going to do another Cody match where there's no real story. There were a few things that made this one different. Kevin Owens saying, I don't want to do this. I don't deserve this match. Do not ask for this match. Cody, I am telling you, do not ask for this match. Makes it very different than any of the other matches that Cody has had. I also think that if you're looking at the card right now, if you're looking at the roster, I should say, you've got two huge baby faces in Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, both on the show. What do you need? Villains. You need a show full of villains. When Roman Reigns was the champion, you needed a show full of heroes because he was the ultimate final boss bad guy. I'm sorry, the final boss was the final boss. Roman Reigns was the ultimate villain. But now, Roman Reigns is a hero. Cody Rhodes is a hero. So what do we need? Villains, villains, and more villains. Therefore, I've got to believe that Kevin Owens is going to do what Kevin Owens always does. And if Cody Rhodes watched the shows as much as Kevin Owens watches the shows, he would know that there's a strong likelihood that this is going to happen. I cannot believe that this is just going to be another story about two friends who respect each other. As I predicted on this podcast weeks ago, I said, coming off of SummerSlam, Kevin Owens and Randy Orton are both going to be opponents, not allies of Cody Rhodes. I think that you've got, 2-3 episodes of Smackdown before Bash in Berlin. I think there is a good possibility that Kevin Owens maintains his friendship with Cody Rhodes up until Bash in Berlin, loses at Bash in Berlin, and then goes nuts. I'm saying go back to Kevin Owens' first premium live event for NXT. When Sami Zayn was in the main event fighting for the NXT championship and Kevin Owens was in the opening match. And at the end of the night, Sami Zayn held that NXT title strong. And Kevin Owens, who is brand new to NXT, came to celebrate with his best friend at the end of the night, only to viciously turn on him. I believe it was a pop-up powerbomb on the ring apron, and it set the tone for who Kevin Owens would be for his entire WWE career. Everything counts. I get that Kevin Owens has a smile on his face right now. I get that Kevin Owens has been fighting for the betterment of the entire WWE and for righteous causes for, the better part of the last couple of years. However, Kevin Owens' descent into madness is never far away. And if I had to make a bold prediction as to where I see this going, I see Kevin Owens getting downright despicable, because to be a true threat to Cody Rhodes' championship, Kevin Owens has to get downright despicable. I think if it were me, I would say make this the moment that the Cody Rhodes character learns that he's been naive as champion, that he's been sitting there trusting everybody, and start creating the scenario where Cody Rhodes realizes this is way tougher than he thought it would be, and it is lonely on top. You saw his face when Nick Aldis brought up Roman Reigns. He didn't look all that comfortable with it. He didn't look like this was a great idea for him. And it's not. And it shouldn't be perceived that way. But I think Kevin Owens should make the biggest villain turn humanly possible to go after Cody Rhodes. And just when Cody Rhodes is able to get over that hump of Kevin Owens, Randy Orton comes back after his quest to defeat Gunther is unsuccessful for the World Heavyweight Championship. And then immediately after Kevin Owens turns on Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton turns on Cody Rhodes. At first, it seems like Randy Orton is there because maybe Cody Rhodes beats Kevin Owens again. Maybe Cody Rhodes beats Kevin Owens when they're both friends, and then they have one more match at Bad Blood, where Kevin Owens is an enemy. And now it's hero Cody Rhodes versus villain Kevin Owens, right? And then at the end of that's where Randy comes out, maybe the next night, next Friday on Smackdown. Kevin Owens is laying another beatdown on Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton comes out to help Kevin Owens. And then, boom, RKO out of nowhere on Cody Rhodes. Randy Orton was not successful in winning the World Heavyweight title. So now it's time to cash in on all those looks that he's been giving Cody's title. These are not his friends. These are people who are at the highest level of professional wrestling, who want to wear the title that Cody Rhodes wears. And they want Cody's title more than they want Cody's friendship. We've seen Cody be a professional. We've seen Cody be a politician. We've seen Cody do what's right and trust his friends. Now it's time for Cody to find out that you can't do that when you're champion. And that maybe, just maybe, Roman, in his run over anyone that's in my way at all costs, care about only me, and be the man that runs this entire business. Maybe that attitude was the right attitude to have in order to survive as champion. And maybe as Cody Rhodes is finally wrapping his head around that concept, after going through Kevin Owens as a villain, after going through Randy Orton as a villain, maybe that is when he's looking face to face with Roman Reigns. Because Roman Reigns still doesn't think that Cody is ready to fight him. Or maybe by the time we get there, it's time for Cody to face The Rock again. I mean, what's going to happen first? Are we going to get the Cody-Roman rematch first? Or are we going to get the Cody-Rock match first? Are we going to get The Rock and Roman? Right now, everything is perfectly set up, if it's done this way, to have Cody go off and have these stories with a despicable Kevin Owens and an even more despicable legend killer Randy Orton. While over on the other side of SmackDown, Roman Reigns is handling bloodline business, because that's what we've got with Roman Reigns right now. Of course, Solo at the beginning of the night came out and confronted Cody Rhodes, but at the end of the night, he had said Roman Reigns isn't here, and I'd like to be acknowledged as the tribal chief until that Roman music played. And it is a stroke of genius, I feel, to have that opening for Roman's theme changed. Now there's that anticipatory drum beat added to Roman's theme, which gives the audience that chance to react. You get the double pop now for the Roman entrance. You get when that orchestral drum beat plays, you get the first pop, which is the intro pop. And then the second pop, which is a much bigger pop, comes in when the tribal chief finally makes his appearance known. The kids are throwing around this word aura. You hear it everywhere now. And if you're confused by it and you want to know what aura is, look no further than the tribal chief in 2024. This is like Undertaker level aura. When Roman shows up and the entire room changes. the mood completely shifts because the idea of what a superstar is put into different perspective when Roman Reigns simply walks out. And he walks to the ring, and he has not touched a microphone yet. We've heard his voice. We've heard him say things. We've heard him say it's only a matter of time when it comes to Cody Rhodes. We've heard him, talking to the members of the bloodline that he is beating the ever-loving stuffing out of. But he hasn't touched a mic yet. He hasn't fully told his story. But, I mean, you want to talk about the aura of a superstar. And you say, Sam, this hyperbole is out of control. You got to stop. If you're going to do a podcast, you can't play everything up like it's the second coming. Well, maybe not. But you tell me, because I saw that the WWE uploaded a video showing us what happened after SmackDown went off the air. You know what happened after SmackDown went off the air? Roman Reigns just walked back from the ring into gorilla position. And just watching Roman Reigns walk back down the aisle and through the curtain with his finger in the air, boom, another mill for the WWE's YouTube account. Why not? Nobody else is doing that. You can't make YouTube videos of people just walking from the ring to the curtain, only for Roman, the tribal chief. So Roman goes to the ring, and I mean, I love this because sometimes they go, well, before this returning superstar gets involved in any physicality, let's let the audience wait for it. Let's make it a special thing. Or let's have the tribal chief just go out there and beat ass every time he's on camera. Because what did he do at SummerSlam? He went out and he put Solo Sikoa into the ground, allowing Cody Rhodes to get the pinfall victory. And what did he do when the bloodline, minus Jacob Fatu, which we'll get into, was standing in the ring? What did Roman Reigns do? He beat the you-know-what out of a couple of Tongans. He walked right to the ring and immediately put Tama Tonga down hard. It's like all of a sudden you realize what kind of person Roman Reigns is. And it's so fun to watch this evolution because as you were watching Roman Reigns beat down Tama Tonga and beat down Tonga Loa, because we're in this position where as fans, Roman Reigns is a good guy, and now we cheer Roman Reigns. All the credit that he took throughout the bloodline, when he was a villain, it was questioned. And for it to really play out, there was always interference. There was always something that because he's a villain, made you as a fan question it. Now that he's a good guy, now that he's a hero, he can go to the ring and execute on all the promises that he made. He can go to the ring and go, well, why is he the original tribal chief? Because look at what he's done to the bloodline. Look at what he did to both Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. Just put him down. And there were a couple of minutes in there, not a couple of minutes, couple of seconds, where he sold a little bit for Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa was able to get some shots in, but not before Roman put him back down. And of course, Solo Sikoa makes the cowardly exit toward the curtain, holding up the Ula Fala, saying, this is what you want. This is what you want. And Roman Reigns just spent the whole time beating the holy hell out of Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. The question is, are we going to get the answers that we're looking for, right? Are we going to find out why Solo Sikoa went from, no, I've been talking to Roman Reigns since WrestleMania, and this is what he wants, and he's not coming back? Why did he shift from that to, and if Roman Reigns has anything to say, he can come and do something about it? That was a huge shift, and that shift happened before SummerSlam, before Roman actually came back. Why did Solo say that stuff after WrestleMania? Why was the shift made? Why did Roman shut down? Why was he so quiet? Why wasn't Roman talking to Paul Heyman? Why all this mystery? There's still questions to be answered from both Solo and Roman, and maybe those questions will be answered verbally, and maybe the story will just be told through action. I don't know. I do know that Jacob Fatu was not in this segment, which, again, goes back to what we were saying about SummerSlam, where if he was legitimately injured jumping onto that table, then it would make sense that he wasn't there because he's injured. But it also makes sense from a storytelling perspective why he's not there. The injury occurring when it did at SummerSlam gave us the perfect opportunity to let Roman Reigns beat down Solo Sikoa without Jacob Fatu getting involved. People say, I don't know if Solo is right to be the leader. I don't know about this Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa is playing his role perfectly because there's not supposed to be a mystery as to whether or not Roman can put down Solo Sikoa. We literally found out within 10 seconds of Roman Reigns being back on television that he can absolutely put down Solo Sikoa. And the reason why that's not up in the air mystery is because every fan knows that Roman Reigns can put down Solo Sikoa, and that was never supposed to be in question. Solo Sikoa follows the Roman Reigns playbook of absolutely needing outside interference to win big matches. That's the way it's supposed to be, and you probably thought he was cooler when he was the enforcer of the bloodline because he didn't need all that, but you're not supposed to think he's cool now. You're supposed to think Roman Reigns is cool, which, by the way, Roman Reigns, super cool. So, the person who's in that role is Jacob. The person who we're questioning whether or not Roman Reigns can take him out as easily as he took out Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa with the eye patch, and Solo Sikoa is Jacob. Whether he's wearing the Ula Fala or not, the payoff here is eventually going to be Roman and Jacob Fatu. So the idea that he was injured on that table made it impossible for him to get in the ring at SummerSlam. So we focused our attention on Solo and Roman, not Roman and Jacob. The fact that that happened in SummerSlam, at SummerSlam, made it so that Roman could come out, take out the Tongans, and have Solo Sikoa running in fear. No Jacob confrontation. Because you may be going, well, if Solo is the tribal chief, wouldn't Solo be the end game? No. Ultimately, Solo Sikoa is in the position that he's in because he was able to bring members of the bloodline into the WWE that were not invited to be members of the bloodline. What did Paul Heyman continuously say while he was on television? We knew about the Tongans. We knew about Jacob Fatu. They're too unpredictable. We didn't want them to be a part of this. Solo Sikoa invited them in. When Roman Reigns was the leader of the bloodline, there was this understanding that Roman Reigns was the provider, and he will put you in the ground if you have anything to say about it. Solo Sikoa is not that leader. That's why Solo Sikoa can't take superstars that are already on the roster, that already have these opportunities, and bring them into the bloodline. Solo Sikoa needs to bring people in from the outside, because if you bring people in from the outside, you're in a position of authority. Because the only reason that you're in a WWE ring, the only reason that you're a part of this at all, the only reason that you're a part of this thing that's at the top of the mountain of professional wrestling is because Solo Sikoa made it so. That's what makes him this tribal chief to Jacob, to Tama, to Tonga. So ultimately, from a physical perspective, the only person who's a threat to Roman Reigns is Jacob. However, there are bodies that Roman has to get through before he gets there. And I think this is what we're witnessing. Now, the other thing that we haven't witnessed yet, and we've all, speculated upon the rebuilding of that traditional bloodline. And I'm sure we'll get there. I'm sure we'll get to Jimmy and Jay. Who knows if Sammy will get involved? I'm sure it's all coming. But there was a moment, and I was hoping we'd get it at SmackDown. We did not get it at SmackDown. Now, I think Roman Reigns coming out by himself, both at SummerSlam and on that first SmackDown, are crucial Because Roman Reigns taking care of business on his own makes him different than the person that he was when he left. The criticism of Roman Reigns as the tribal chief was everything is interference, everything requires the rest of the bloodline. This is nonsense. Roman Reigns, as a good guy, is taking care of everything by himself, which I think is essential, at least in the very beginning. So you can give people that permission to go, yep, that's my guy. Now, I think there is one huge reaction that I'm waiting for. We didn't get it at Smackdown. Maybe we'll get it this week on Smackdown. Maybe we'll get it at a premium live event. I don't know when. But all I want, this is what I want. Close your eyes. Picture, if you will. We know Roman Reigns is going to be on this show. Whatever show it is, we know Roman Reigns is going to be on this show. We know Roman Reigns is going to be on this segment that we're in right now. We come back from a commercial break, maybe. And the camera shot is on the entryway. And the commentators aren't talking. And the fans are going nuts because everybody knows Roman's music is about to hit. But Roman's music doesn't hit. Instead, from behind the curtain, without ever seeing a human being, you hear, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman." And then he walks out through the curtain, and everybody loses their mind. And he says, "And I act as the special counsel and the wise man to the original tribal chief, Roman Reigns." And he points to the curtain, and that's when the music hits and Roman Reigns comes out. But that, when you don't see it coming, just because Paul Heyman's voice is such a part of everything that Paul Heyman is, that when you just hear that voice and know, oh my God, it's happening, it's going to be a forever moment. Paul Heyman's going to create another forever moment. And then he comes out and we see something that I think most people thought we would never see. And that's a babyface Paul Heyman alongside a babyface Roman Reigns. And maybe that's when we get the promo. Maybe that's when Roman Reigns explains that he said, and he said it in his A&E biography, that once the title is gone, you won't see him anymore. And maybe he says, "I was happy, y'all. I was at home with my family. I had done what I came to do, and I had left everybody in a better position for it." And maybe that's when he says that the one mistake that Solo made, aside from wearing his ulafala, aside from calling himself the tribal chief, maybe Roman could look past all that, but he put his hands on the wise man. He put his hands on Paul Heyman. And that is what brought Roman Reigns back to the WWE. And maybe now we're going crazy. Now my mind is just rolling like Fred Durst. Maybe that's when Solo comes out and he goes, "But Roman, I'm the tribal chief. I'm not the one. You remember that, right? I'm not the one who put my hands on the wise man." And then he points and he goes, "He is." And from behind Roman Reigns, here's Jacob Fatu. And finally, after all this time of Roman Reigns being utterly dominant, we see Jacob Fatu beat down Roman Reigns. And Paul Heyman, who doesn't get touched, has a look on his face that we haven't seen in a very long time, where for the first time he's not sure if his tribal chief can defeat the man who stands over him. Oh. Hey guys, forgive the interruption, but I think you're going to be glad that I let you know. That is, if you want to win big this football season. Yes, if you do, then look no further than MyBookie. They give you options to bet and win all season long on both NFL and college football. MyBookie makes every game and every play exciting. Did the first 2 legs of your parlay hit? Cash out early and use the funds on another bet, or let it ride for the chance at an even bigger payday. However you decide to play, you're going to have a blast. Look, I've been watching football for exactly 1 season. How am I going to make this second season as exciting as the first one was? I'm going to use MyBookie. I'm going to try to make a couple bucks. With MyBookie's sportsbook and casino platform, you can bet on everything and win anywhere, anytime using your mobile device. There's no need to download an app. Just sign up online and you're ready to bet. It's safe, secure, and you get paid super quickly when you win. Matter of fact, use promo code NOTSAM to lock in a welcome bonus that'll spot you all the way up to $1,000. You heard that right. That's promo code NOTSAM to claim a bonus on your first deposit so you can bet on anything with house money. Bet on anything, anywhere, anytime, only with MyBookie. I can't wait. Obviously, I'm excited about it. I'm playing these scenarios out in my head, and I'm going nuts. I'm also very, very excited about the Wyatt Sicks. The Wyatt Sicks. We saw them not only, and I told you, I got on my little soapbox. I went on my little rant about shutting down the haters. I don't like haters. I got no time for haters. There's no haters allowed to listen or watch this show. 2, I guess, this show. But it was teased, and we finally saw it. The Wyatt Sicks are going to wrestle. We find out it's going to be Chad Gable and the Creeds, who, as they come to the ring, announce themselves as American-made. No more Alpha Academy. Otis, I love that Maxine still calls him Otis. Otis, Tozawa, Maxine, you want to be Alpha Academy? Be Alpha Academy. Because Creed and the Creeds and Gable are American-made. And they come to the ring, and they look great. They got the new look. They got the matching singlets. Everything is fantastic. And here come the Wyatt Sicks. And the entrance is great. And they bring that rocking chair with them. I still am not 100% sure how that rocking chair was transported. Somebody was carrying it. But we have Dexter Lumis, Joe Gacy, and Eric Rowan, who jump up to the ring, and they take off their masks, and they take off their overcoats, and the match just begins. The entire match, we've got Uncle Howdy and Abigail, because that's how they were announced on commentary. Michael Cole finally referred to this Nikki Cross character, who we haven't really acknowledged is Nikki Cross. We haven't seen her take the mask off. She's the only person in the group who hasn't taken the mask off, interestingly enough. But Uncle Howdy and Abigail are those characters. And it's Joe Gacy, Dexter Lumis, and Eric Rowan. Now, when they have the masks on, the same way Bo Dallas exists as Bo Dallas, but Uncle Howdy also exists as Uncle Howdy, I think that there were references to like Joe Gacy as Huskus, Gacy, Huskus, whatever. I don't remember exactly how Cole called it on commentary, but maybe that's what they're doing with the masks on. I don't know, but the point is, we saw a 2-segment real match that the audience was fully on board for the entire time. This Wyatt Sicks group is so different from anything like it that we've seen before. Is so different from a lot of the stuff that Bray Wyatt did. Is so different from even a lot of the stuff that The Undertaker did way back in the day. Different from the stuff Papa Shango did. Different from the stuff that any spooky character has ever done. Because it's actually grounded in reality. This is the separation that I don't think some people have realized or made yet. Unlike any other supernatural group, this group is not supernatural. They're more reality-based than almost any act on television because they're all coming from a place of real loss. They're all explaining what these masks represent, who they are, why they're here, and they're all real reasons from real human beings. And on that note, you've now got a group that before, it's like They might be humans, but they turn into monsters once they get in the ring. It's the opposite. They come out to the ring as these monsters, but once they're in the ring, they're vulnerable human beings that happen to be real tough, real strong, and great at pro wrestling. I'm so happy. You know, Eric Rowan is Eric Rowan, awesome. Joe Gacy, awesome. But Dexter Lumis specifically is a guy who, as much of an interesting character as he always played, and as great of a look as he always had, even as Sam Shaw going into the Dexter Lumis stuff, I always wondered, I kind of thought, I don't think it's ever going to click in the way it could. I'm not sure that it ever will, because it didn't. You know, I think as a sort of comedy thing in NXT, once he started dating Indy Hartwell, it was kind of fun. But when he was like kind of walking, when he first got back to WWE and he was walking that line between scary guy and funny guy, and he was like stalking The Miz and stuff like that and popping out from under the ring, it was like the segments were funny and it was always entertaining when he was on TV, but it was like, where does this really go? I feel like he's finally found this spot because he's in a character that acknowledges all the flaws of the previous characters, and that maybe some of it was his fault and maybe some of it was the positions that he was put in. But now that he's got dreadlocks and an X carved into his head, I couldn't be more interested in Dexter Lumis. And when he came in the ring looking all big and buff, jumping off the top rope and whatnot, I was like, hell yeah, dude. This is what it's all about. You know, the interesting thing, too, about this group is it becomes a flaw at a certain point if you can't lose. This was a problem with The Fiend. And this is why he should never have won the WWE Championship. Because the whole aura, there's that word again, behind The Fiend was that nothing hurt him. He couldn't lose. You could beat him with every weapon that you had. He's just going to get right back up. You could burn him alive. He's just going to get right back up. He is Jason Voorhees incarnate. And when that happens, it actually, at first, is really cool because it's a story that has never really been told in wrestling before. Well, I don't know, never, but you know what I'm saying. It's a story that is infrequently told in wrestling. But ultimately, is a very limiting story because there's only so much he can do, and you can't have him bury the whole roster. So there is a certain discipline that is required for that character that I think WWE ended up not really having with The Fiend. I think this version of the Wyatt Sicks can lose matches. Absolutely can lose matches. Either cleanly they can lose and just go, yep, that wasn't my night, but we're not done. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe this happened. Maybe that happened. Because they handle things honestly. Or there can be some kind of chicanery, some kind of interference where they lose in a way that's not justified. And that's when the masks come back on and the Wyatt Sicks start stalking you. But the idea that once they get in the ring, we're just wrestlers having a wrestling match. But the stuff that has happened to us has left us so messed up and so nuts. And we so don't give a you-know-what because of everything that's happened, that once we put these masks on, we will leave bodies bloodied and piled up around us. If you want to keep it in the ring, we'll keep it in the ring. If you want to go beyond that, you're not going to like what we do. That, to me, is who these Wyatt Sicks are when it comes to fighting. And I think that's a real great spot to be in, and a beautiful thing that has real legs. And listen to the reactions. You know, they haven't, not only have they not lost an ounce of steam, but every step they take gets a little better and a little better and a little better. People like it more and more and more, which brings me back to my original point when they first showed up. In this era that we're in right now, let them cook. They haven't, in a big way, disappointed us yet. If something catastrophic happens, we'll talk about it. We'll address it. We're here. There'll be an emergency pod. There'll be a spot for our feelings. But in the meantime, if that catastrophic thing hasn't happened, if things keep kind of making sense, narratively speaking, working out, maybe it takes longer than you thought it would, but it should, let them cook. Because they probably know what they're doing, and they haven't proven to us that they don't. If they prove to us that they don't know what they're doing, I'll be as cynical as the next person. We can all be cynical together. But until that happens, it's unwarranted and unfair. And this is how I feel. We had a great segment on Monday with Bronson Reed. Now, at first, I thought, so I'm watching, right? And it's Seth and Punk. And then Drew McIntyre's in the crowd. And he does the unthinkable. He reads the names on the bracelet. He references CM Punk's dog and wife. CM Punk has had enough, chases Drew McIntyre into the audience. Well, Seth just kind of looks on like, what the hell? And I'm like, part of me is like, are we really just going to continue this three-way rivalry? Like, how long can you keep going with this three-way rivalry without it taking away from the two different two-way rivalries that you have? And then as I'm thinking about this, Bronson Reed runs over Seth Rollins like a steamroller. And I go, never mind. Again, I don't need to worry about it because here's Bronson Reed. And Bronson Reed has one of the best segments of the night for himself, where he takes down Seth Rollins. Seth tries to come back, takes him down again, and hits him with about 6 tsunamis, leaves Seth Rollins coughing up blood on the ring mat. It is awesome. And this is one of those things that everything counts for. Bronson Reed has been telling you, if you watch him, whatever TV time he gets, he's been telling you that he's fed up. When he was trying to get the Intercontinental title, he was like, I don't care what you guys are talking about. I'm just here for the belt, and I'm going to beat you for it. He's been cutting promos on Raw Talk, which luckily I get to see because I host Raw Talk, where he's talking about scalping gatekeepers and destroying everybody and telling you, like, giving all this warning. This is what I'm going to do. Stay out of my way. And everybody goes, I'm not even really thinking about Bronson Reed. And Bronson Reed goes, okay, here's a reason to think about it. And I go, this is great for Bronson Reed. This is fantastic. Then I hear rumors later in the week that Seth may be injured either again or it's just those same injuries nagging him again. He's got to be off TV for a while. I hope that's not true. Adam Pearce made the announcement on social media that Seth Rollins would be going away for a while. So apparently he's going to be off TV. It's a bummer because Seth Rollins is great. However, ultimately, if that's the case, I think it's going to work out best for everybody. I think we're now going to get to go further into this CM Punk Drew McIntyre story. You know, maybe we'll get a Bash in Berlin match. Maybe we'll end up getting a Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood, right? Between just those two, because now we can recenter on just those two without Rollins being that distraction in between them. At the same time, Bronson Reed comes across looking 10 times better than he ever has before. Bronson Reed got launched into superstardom after that attack on Seth Rollins. All of a sudden, Bronson Reed has entered the chat. He is in the conversation now. That's how quickly a star can be born. And that's what part of WWE is right now. Just put all the ingredients in and wait for that moment to strike. Everything's there. Just wait for that moment to strike. And when it does, because all the ingredients have been put in, that's what cooking's all about. We've set everything up perfectly. And when it is that time to strike, boom, there it is. And everything goes over like gangbusters. And that to me is what happened. The two questions that I'm left with. I have no fear or qualms about Drew and Seth. I mean, about Drew and Punk. Drew and Punk is going to be awesome. Rivalry of the year, probably. First question. If Seth is off TV, we're not going to a Seth Rollins Bronson Reed program. So where are we going? Who is going to be the opponent for Bronson Reed? So my first thought was kind of, and I guess we kind of saw it already when he was Intercontinental Champion. My first thought was kind of Sami Zayn. Because Sami Zayn is one of those top tier, full-on good guys that are going to give a great match. But honestly, especially after losing the Intercontinental title, Sami Zayn can take another loss. Sami Zayn can take infinity losses and never lose an ounce of credibility, right? Like, it wouldn't hurt him at all to lose to Bronson Reed. So there's that. However, if you watch Raw, there seems like they're starting to set up a Jey Uso, Sami Zayn tandem. So if they are going with that in a quest for the tag team championship against the Judgment Day, which would make sense because the Rhea Ripley, Jey Uso connection thing, I don't know if Sami Zayn's going to be that person. But if not Sami Zayn, I'm not 100% sure where Bronson Reed goes. Sheamus is occupied with Pete Dunne. Because you want somebody that's big enough. Because if you follow up Seth Rollins with somebody who's like a little bit lower on the card, you don't want Bronson Reed to lose momentum. And I feel like he wouldn't lose momentum with Sami Zayn. I don't think he'd lose momentum with Sheamus. I would bring Jey Uso into this conversation, but I don't want Jey Uso to lose to anybody, right? I want Jey Uso to just win all the time. Can't be anybody really in Judgment Day. So I don't know. If you've got some ideas, leave it in the reviews or the comments or whatever, or email it into the email segment. But I'm interested to see where that happens. The other question is, where does Seth Rollins return? Because I think the next Seth Rollins return will be even bigger than the last one was. The last Seth Rollins return, when he surprised everybody on Raw, it was good, but number one, it hadn't been that long since WrestleMania. And number two, we knew it was coming at some point. I feel like the fact that we got a taste of Seth, but he didn't really get everything done, and now he's gone again, is going to make people even more hungry for Seth Rollins. I think it's got to be a surprise. I think it's got to be bigger than ever. I think either Seth returns at the Royal Rumble, and who knows what his injury is, right? That's a big question. Who knows how much time an injury like he's got, whatever it is, will require. But assuming that we don't know, he just needs time off, and we can just talk about when he could come back that was like good for business, I would say keep him off TV for the rest of the year. Even if he's going to be good by November, keep him off. You've got enough guys. Keep him off TV for the rest of the year and have him either return at the Royal Rumble or in the build-up to WrestleMania. Like either return at the Royal Rumble or he'll be totally done with Drew at that point. CM Punk is cutting a promo in February and Seth Rollins makes a surprise return. And then we start building to Seth Rollins versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. Either way, I think if you're having him return at the Rumble, have him eliminate CM Punk and then have CM Punk hit him with the Sid Justice, eliminate him from the outside and cost him the Rumble, and we're off to the races. Either, like, however you want to do it, I'm hoping that we get to Seth Rollins and CM Punk at WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas. I think between CM Punk versus, you could end up having all the matches that you planned on for WrestleMania 40. Wouldn't that be funny if like WrestleMania 41 ends up being Rock versus Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins versus CM Punk? And it's like, I told you we'd get there eventually. I'm hoping more for Rock versus Cody, but who knows what'll happen. Speaking of big shows, though, I do think that the build to All In has been one of the best builds to a pay-per-view that AEW has done in recent memory. If you really, because people love criticizing AEW and they've got their problems, of course, but if you look at what they've been building for this All-In Wembley show, I think on paper already, I care more about the matches. I think last year, All In was just about the spectacle of being there. It was about MJF and Adam Cole, and it was about the spectacle. But ultimately, the MJF Adam Cole match at All In last year wasn't even the match because they were still friends. It wasn't the rivalry grudge match. You know what I mean? So it wasn't the biggest MJF Adam Cole match. I think that it was more about the spectacle of being in Wembley Stadium, more about the spectacle of seeing like, wow, 80,000 plus are here to see AEW. What a great night this is. I think this year, it's a lot more about the matches. It's a lot more about the matches and the matches, I mean, people say what they want about the storytelling in AEW, but there are 4 big, giant matches that all have stories, and it's 2 men's matches and 2 women's matches, which is pretty great, right? They've got, of course, the world title match, which is Bryan Danielson versus Swerve. And this is one where they could have just said, look, Bryan Danielson won the tournament, Swerve is the champion, so it's going to be a great match. Instead, they're telling the story of Swerve having to fight for everything. They're telling this story of maybe Swerve not getting the credit as champion that he's deserving of, right? That Swerve constantly having to prove himself whether he's got the title or not. And then they're telling the story of this Bryan Danielson, who's like this kind of broken guy, right? Physically. The story of Bryan Danielson getting to the end of August of the year that he said he was going to stop wrestling. And JR was doing interviews with both Swerve and Danielson. Swerve reacting to the Danielson stuff, going like, I don't care. This is my time. I don't care what your story is. I'm here for me and my time. And we get to this culminative match where Swerve's title is on the line. And it means everything to Swerve. And it's how he identifies himself. And it is the symbol of having to prove everybody wrong, put the work in, and be the man. And then on the other corner, you've got Bryan Danielson, who has said straight up, I either win the title or I retire from professional wrestling. It's title versus career. If that's not your main event for that show, I don't know what is. And who's more fun to watch wrestle than both Swerve and Bryan Danielson? At the same time, you've got MJF, who has done an incredible 180. And even though he came back as a babyface, I think read the tea leaves and realized what people want to see and what people need. This goes back to the conversation about where Roman Reigns stands, right? Ultimately, there are baby faces that you could argue are better than MJF, right? Like, people love Will Ospreay. People love Bryan Danielson. People love, I don't know. Swerve is like an atypical baby face. But the AEW has plenty of baby faces that people like. Who's a heel in AEW that's better than MJF? No one. I don't care if the Bucks turn heel. I don't care if Hangman turns heel. I don't care any of them. Nobody's touching MJF as a villain. So I think MJF and Adam Cole, he didn't even have the chance to do it because he's out with injury. So it's like, if you don't have Adam Cole as that villain, what's the point of having MJF as a hero when he could be a villain and there's so much more to do? And I think MJF figured that out, and he goes, okay, what's the story? He wins the title from Ospreay in just the shittiest way possible by not giving the people what they wanted, which was a time limit draw, and instead, with 5 seconds left, cheating to win. Beautiful. And then becomes the American champion. Clearly, so that he could walk in. All of this is being done so he can walk in to the United Kingdom and get booed out of the biggest building that AEW performs in. And he's putting in the work every single week to, I feel like, when we did the live Notsam Wrestling show in Cleveland with Bubba Ray Dudley, which that video will be up on the Notsam Wrestling YouTube channel. Maybe we'll put the audio out as a podcast if you guys want it. Just let me know. But he talked about MJF as a villain and how it's important to him that you don't love to hate a villain, you actually hate the villain. And I feel like MJF is a less cool villain than he's ever been. And I say that as an absolute compliment because he's being a true villain. I feel like we're getting to a place where in England, Will Ospreay is going to be a true good guy and MJF is going to be a true bad guy. And MJF does not lose very often, and neither does Will Ospreay. Also, is this the match where the Tiger Driver comes back? Because I kind of saw the idea of taking of Will Ospreay saying, I'm not going to do the Tiger Driver anymore because it's too big of a risk to injuring people, made me feel like when he finally does bring back the Tiger Driver, what better way to turn him heel? oh, this bastard knew that would hurt somebody and did it anyway. But if you're a villain that's enough of a villain that people want to see you get that badly hurt, then maybe it is time to bring the Tiger Driver back. If he can bring back that Tiger Driver and win the match with it, and everybody cheers, MJF can go on TV the next week and say, I was put in the most dangerous move in wrestling, a move that he said he was never going to do again because he has hurt people doing it. He did not take care of me. He tried to end my career. He tried to injure me. He tried to not only end my career, but destroy my personal life and make me live out my days as a paraplegic. And you guys cheered. You guys cheered for that. When that happened to me, you cheered. And it only adds to the villainy of MJF. Then you've got Mercedes and Britt Baker, which I think Camille has been the ultimate compliment to the Mercedes Moné act. I think that she needed something. And I think the fact that she's gone all the way and is a pure villain now, not this weird in-between thing. And she's got Camille there to make sure that nobody can touch her. I think that we're finally kind of establishing what the Mercedes act in AEW is, and I think it's a good thing. I like that they cycled in the Britt Baker real-life suspension into storyline, so she's like suspended because of what she did to Mercedes. In real life, that's not why she was suspended. But I think that it is so much better to relate it to a storyline that you can make money off of, as opposed to like what they did before when they showed the CM Punk footage to make Jack Perry a villain. It's like, yeah, but then if you're using the CM Punk footage to make Jack Perry a villain, then CM Punk is the good guy. And he works for WWE. So the fact that they've learned from that, I think, maybe I'm being optimistic, and turn this into something that is storyline driven, I think is really, really good. And then, Mariah May versus Toni Storm is going to bring the house down. Faster Pussycat Kill Toni Storm with them eyebrows versus the villainous Mariah May. Again, all four of these, very, very clear who the good guy is, except for Swerve and Bryan. The other three, very, very clear who the good guy is, who the bad guy is, and even with Swerve and Bryan, what story we're telling. Those are four matches that could absolutely main event a pay-per-view. And I think that that's a good sign of things to come for AEW. Before we get into, we got some news and notes that I want to talk about before we get into the emails. Odyssey Jones had a great week on Monday night, coming in, doing that double sidewalk slam on the Authors of Pain, which was absolutely insane to watch. Getting the tweet from Big E, which is almost like a passing of the torch, helping Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods win. But did we see that Xavier Woods maybe wasn't happy? Xavier Woods was not celebrating the way Kofi Kingston was celebrating. And, if you're going to break up the New Day, which I'm not saying you are, but if you are, better to break up the New Day when you had to replace Big E, right? It'd be interesting if Xavier Woods was the heel, though. It'd be really interesting if Xavier Woods actually does join the Final Testament. I think low-key Karrion Kross has actually been doing some pretty cool stuff with the Final Testament. There's just a lot going on Raw right now. I do want to take a couple of minutes to say rest in peace to an absolute legend, Kevin Sullivan. I think a lot of people who are around my age got to know Kevin Sullivan best when he was the Taskmaster in WCW. Of course, he was the leader of the Dungeon of Doom when Hulk Hogan came over, and then they went to destroy Hulkamania. Not the best stuff in the world, but Kevin Sullivan had a prolific wrestling brain, head booker in WCW for quite a while, and responsible for some good and bad stuff. But to me, I really fell in love with Kevin Sullivan as a performer when I was later in high school, when I started tape trading and getting some footage from the territories, and then finding magazines and stuff like that, where I saw what Kevin Sullivan had been doing in Florida, where he really was kind of a godfather of that sort of demonic character that we still see in wrestling today. I think that the Final Testament, if you ask Karrion Kross, and all those guys. I bet Karrion Kross and Scarlett specifically. I'll bet if you ask them, they would tell you Kevin Sullivan influenced them. I'll bet the original Undertaker was influenced by Kevin Sullivan. I'll bet the Wyatts were influenced by Kevin Sullivan. I mean, Kevin Sullivan was absolute pure evil at a time where you didn't see evil shown that way in professional wrestling, and committed to it to an extremely high level. Kevin Sullivan was a guy who wasn't as tall as just about anybody that he was in the ring with, but he made you forget it instantly once he got in there, both because of this evil entity that he was, and because he was a powerhouse in there. Awesome. I mean, I'm a big Kevin Sullivan fan, and I was very sad to hear about his passing. So rest in peace to Kevin Sullivan. Another group that I think was surely influenced by Kevin Sullivan is the Judgment Day. You know, a lot in the Judgment Day, especially early Judgment Day, influenced by Kevin Sullivan. And I had a lot to say about the Judgment Day coming off of Raw. We did an emergency podcast midweek last week about the Judgment Day. So if you missed that, make sure you go and check it out. And I just love that, everything we saw with Liv Morgan, because there was questions as to whether or not maybe Liv wasn't with Dominic. Maybe she was actually with Finn Balor. But realistically, maybe Finn Balor and Liv were planning this the whole time while the love blossomed between Liv and Dominic, and that's the formation of the entire Judgment Day. Either way, go check out that emergency podcast. And if you're going to be in the New York area, make sure you come out to Fanatics Fest. I think it's August 16th through the 18th. I'll be there on the Saturday and Sunday, the 17th and the 18th, doing podcasts, live Notsam Wrestling on the Saturday and the Sunday afternoon. And I believe my guests will be Paul Heyman and Rey Mysterio, two separate podcasts. And those interviews are going to be absolutely epic. I seriously, dream guests. I can't wait for it. So make sure, if you're in the New York area, get those tickets to Fanatics Fest and come out. I'll post all the info of the times and everything so you can make sure that you're there. And email me about it if you are there. The email address is notsamwrestling@gmail.com. That's notsamwrestling@gmail.com. Let's go to Dirk. I think Dirk is very good with the timing. He knows when to send these emails, because I feel like we've been getting the email segment has been Dirk heavy the last couple weeks. He says, one thing I appreciate with Cody Rhodes as champion is he makes his matches / rivalries feel like there's a real chance he could lose. And on top of it, he's teamed up with two guys that have a history of being great heels. And he even gave one of them a shot at the championship. It feels like an old school babyface, and I like that. On to Bash in Berlin, I think. I feel like KO's morals will be tested. The bloodline will interfere, taking out Cody and leaving Owens with a major decision. Do I stay true to my friend or take the help to become champion? Can you see this happening? What do you think KO would choose? I don't see it happening, because I see Cody and the bloodline being separated. And KO hates the bloodline. All that said, I do think KO is going to turn on Cody Rhodes, as I said at the beginning of the show today. Spencer in Vegas. Hey, Sam, here's something not sure has been talked about much, but how much did Roman getting sick before the day one PLE in 2022 and Brock getting added to the Fatal 4-Way WWE title match change the whole course of the WWE? I mean, immeasurably. You know, Roman not being at that show it was going to be Roman and Brock. And who knows if Brock was going to win or lose. But it made Brock get added to the WWE title match. Big E loses. That becomes a Fatal 4-Way. Brock becomes the WWE champion. Brock then takes that title to WrestleMania. Roman ends up winning both titles. And we're off to the races with Roman having both titles. I don't see how Roman gets both titles at WrestleMania 38 if he wrestles on day one. So, and maybe one day we'll go on a deep dive of that, because, yeah, absolutely. Luis writes in, Sam, who do you think had the best special referee outfit? Was it Christian Cage's subtle but hilarious turtleneck referee shirt, or Seth Rollins' what the hell is he wearing now sparkly ensemble? Love you. Love your always thoughtful analysis. I have to say, I liked Christian's understated turtleneck. The fact that he went for the turtleneck and it didn't feel like Seth being over the top is Seth. So it's not like it's a flaw. But I love that Christian just did it because, of course, Christian would do it. So I'm gonna give the nod to Christian, but both were great. Christian coming out in that turtleneck was great. Sarah writes in, love the podcast. I watch every week and love you bringing the wrestling community together. That's why you're the GOAT. I knew I was the GOAT, but I was wondering, like, why? Like, how did that happen? But I guess that makes sense. My question is, what did you think of Odyssey Jones? I loved it. Okay, we talked about it. Do we think it's the start of it? Okay, we talked about it. But very, very good. Simone writes in from Belgium. Simone from Belgium. We are a global podcast. I hope you and your family are doing great. We're doing awesome, Simone. Thank you. I have a question that only you can answer. I'm not surprised by that. I'm watching the product, and even more important to my question, I'm listening to the product. Since Solo took over the bloodline, the amount of solos, right, you say during the podcast has skyrocketed. Everything counts is an important rule. So, is this a hint that you're going to turn on Roman? I would never turn on Roman, right? Oh, you see what I did there? That was fun. Joe writes in, hope all is well. All is fantastic. Which inanimate object is more over/important storytelling? Punk's bracelet or the Ulafala? I would say the Ulafala because it's been over for years now. But Punk's bracelet is important too. By the way, people that are like, why would they care so much about the bracelet? It's not just the bracelet. It's what the bracelet means. It's not just the Ulafala. It's what the Ulafala means. I could buy a Ulafala on Amazon. Roman Reigns is not going to fight me for it. Reductive people. Josh writes in, what's the hap, Sam? You love us to speculate wildly. It is rule number 2. Even if it damages your mental health with the emails. That's actually a great call. That's 100% correct. But I love writing in, even if my double money in the bank was ripped to shreds. This is you, Josh. That was a terrible email. And I know I was right because people literally came up to me and said, yeah, man, that was a terrible email, huh? And I said, don't bring it up. This time, I'd like some feedback on if they brought in an intergender tag title. Oh, come on, dude. Think about the Forgotten Mixed Match Challenge with teams like the Terror Twins, or even Jay and Rhea, Dom and Liv, Rowan and Cross, Montez and Belair, Johnny and Candice. But most of these, by the way, are already in tag teams that they would have to leave their partners to join this. Trick and Lash, Chase U, Strowman and Bliss. Bliss isn't even on TV right now. Jimmy and Naomi, they're just married. They're not even in a storyline together. Nia and Solo. Now you're just grasping at straw. You just wanted your list to be longer. Shinsuke and Io or Asuka, you just wanted your list to be longer, dude. In the beginning, up until you got to Chase U. Nothing after that makes any sense at all. So many Look, here's the thing. Do they need an intergender tag team championship? No, of course they don't. But if they brought back Mixed Match Challenge, I wouldn't mind there being a champion of Mixed Match Challenge. And I mean, the same way there's a speed champion, right? The speed champion, while they'll reference it every now and then, for the most part exists on speed on Twitter. You know, and now they got a female speed champion, and all that's fine. If you want to bring back Mixed Match Challenge, and you want to have an intergender tag title that only exists on the Facebook show, I have no problem with that whatsoever. That could be a lot of fun, and I'll watch. But in terms of that just being a title that's on the show, no, of course not. Let's see. Hamza from England writes in, how are you doing? I love the shows. I get that. My question is, if you had to pick 5 wrestlers to protect you against my team, who would you pick? Here's my team. Bald Randy Orton. I'm not doing that. It's too long. It's too much. Mark writes in from California. Hi, Sam. Our tribal chief and wise man rolled into one. That's a good call, because I am that. Was I imagining it, or did Tama Tonga hesitate when he picked up the Ulafala Friday before giving it to Solo? I saw the same thing. I was wondering if Tama Tonga was trying to take it for himself. I saw the same thing. Tama Tonga was slow to give the Ulafala to Solo Sikoa. I saw it. Mark, you're 100% right. Now you have my attention. You had my curiosity. Could this be a seed for a future split between Solo and the Tongans? It's always possible. Also, interested in your take on how Jimmy Uso comes back, how Jimmy and Jay return, how Hikuleo, a.k.a. Talatanga, debuts. That's a whole podcast, dude. You want me to do a podcast just for you? Matt writes in, I acknowledge you, my tribal chief. I have feelings. Well, this is an emergency podcast territory then. I follow all the rules, but I can't help jumping ahead or speculating wildly. Speculating wildly is one of the rules. I'm interested where Roman's story is going. If you have Solo, Cody, The Rock, where do you think Seth after injuries recovery? I'm jumping ahead, but perhaps everything counts. I think I've covered all that. Roman is with the Bloodline. Cody has KO and Randy. Seth has Punk after he's done with his injury. Watch the product. Andy writes in, good afternoon, my podcast tribal chief. I acknowledge you as my original tribal chief. Appreciate that. For the OTC's first... I acknowledge you as well as my original tribal chief. I appreciate that, regardless. For the OTC's first match back, would you rather see him face Tama Tonga or in a tag match against the Gorillas of Destiny? Part of me wants to see him go... Well, here's the thing. If he takes them on one at a time, it becomes difficult for the multi-man match. It's like, I don't know if I want to see him face Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga on pay-per-view because he would just cream them. You know what I mean? If you're gonna face them on SmackDown, maybe. But it's almost like, because he's not gonna, I don't know that he'll wrestle soon. So it's, maybe he will. Maybe he'll wrestle Bash in Berlin. What do I know? But I don't know, man. It's almost like wait until the Usos come back. It's a good question. Maybe he faces Tama Tonga and that's when Talatanga debuts, right? Hikuleo. Maybe Hikuleo comes out at the end of him beating Tama Tonga. Now he's got to face Hikuleo. But I hate that people are just ignoring Tonga Loa. They're like, well, when does he fight Tonga Loa? He ain't fighting Tonga Loa. That sucks for Tonga Loa. That's not right. Rob writes in, Roman didn't show up to SummerSlam until Jacob got hurt. Roman didn't show up on SmackDown until it was confirmed Jacob wasn't there. Everything counts, which means Roman Reigns fears Jacob Fatu. Do you agree that this indisputable discovery makes non-coward Solo Sikoa our real tribal chief? No. But I enjoy the theory. Let's see. Devin writes in, hope this finds you well. Long enough time viewer that the other two rules of Not Sam are always on the mind whenever I watch the product. I love that. With Dom officially sealing the deal with Liv Morgan. Whoa, what do you know that I don't? And keeping in mind Braun Breaker's elimination at the hands of Dom at the Royal Rumble this year, do you think it's possible that she helps Dom pick up the Intercontinental title win only for Rhea to win it off Dom? No, I don't think that that's possible. That would be a great way to transition the IC title into a women's mid-card, bring back the European or Cruiserweight for the men. Devin. Then it says, thank you, my tribal chief. I appreciate you acknowledging me, as you should. But that is a hideous idea. You're going to take the... First of all, they got away... They did away with the Intercontinental title once. It was a terrible mistake. The Intercontinental title has more history in the WWE than any title besides the WWE Championship. The Intercontinental title is a WWE staple. Why would you use the Intercontinental title to build up Braun Breaker, only to take it from him so that you can have Rhea Ripley beat Dom for it, and then do away with it altogether? And transition it into a women's championship? No. If you want to have a mid-card... And why would Rhea have a mid-card women's championship? She's not mid-card. She's the top star in the division. This is all terrible. No. And is Braun Breaker going to be a babyface in this scenario? No, Devin. No. You should have... think about your emails. That should be rule number 4. Okay, hello, not Sam. Hello. If you need more, this is a plug for his nonsense. This is from Tom. Hey, Sam, what do you envision as a successful U.S. title run for LA Knight that can make him into a world title holder within another year or two? P.S. Love his recent saying to his opponents about them beating him. It's not that you're not good enough. It's because I won't let you. Gives off major Ric Flair vibes when he says it. Yeah, I think he's been great. I think his promos have been great. Like, stop with the, and then he can do this. And then it's like, just let him do well. Let LA Knight do well. Let him have a good rivalry with Santos, and then he can beat Santos Escobar. And then he can go to another show, and he can win there, and then he can go to another show and win. Don't worry about, can he win what if he wins the world title in 2 years? No, who cares? Just relax. Let it play itself out. Right now, LA Knight's not in that conversation. But why bring up that conversation? Because he's crushing it as the United States champion. The only reason he's not in that conversation is because it's occupied right now. We'll feel it. If it gets to a place where LA Knight is bigger than the United States Championship and LA Knight is bigger and more popular than the people that are in the world title scene, then we'll get there. But is LA Knight going to beat Gunther right now? Right today? No. Is LA Knight going to beat Cody Rhodes today? No. So in the meantime, let's just let the guy have a great U.S. title run, and that's it. All right, let's do one more. Tyler. No, I'm not doing this one. Sorry, Tyler. Okay, sounds interesting by the subject. James. Big fan of the podcast and love what you do. I picked a good one. This is my first time writing in. Okay. And it's because you said on the Roman Reigns Returns podcast, that was last week's show, and something in my head about your rule of everything counts for some reason just set off my spidey senses a little. Okay. When you say everything counts, obviously that means everything counts. Okay. Yeah, you've been paying attention. So potentially, could they be moving Michael Cole back to SmackDown because of the integral part he has played in Cody's story? I know it's a stretch, but when you look back at all of Cody's matches, the Brock Lesnar match, for example, Michael Cole was begging Cody to stop, pleading like he would to a son or a nephew to stop. At WrestleMania 39, he was audibly heartbroken that Cody lost. At WrestleMania 40, he was the only commentator that Cody went and hugged, and both of them exchanged I love yous to each other. Michael even said himself that he has known Cody from being a boy and has been with him his entire career, following it all the way through to this point. So if everything counts, could this be a potential reason why they have moved him to SmackDown? If the Bloodline Civil War is coming, we just saw Roman's return, and there's unfinished business there. Maybe because everything counts, Michael Cole is the only one that gives us that emotional commentary that we need to complete this epic Bloodline Rhodes Roman saga. Like I said, I know it's a stretch. I hope this email finds you and your family well. Keep giving us the great wrestling content that you do. Kind regards, James. P.S. Can you tell everyone to stop complaining about the Wyatt Sicks? Just enjoy the moment, because in a few years' time, this moment may not ever be here again. Let them cook. God damn it. Yeah, I tell them every week. Don't you worry about that, James. I don't agree with that hypothesis, but I like the email, and I think it's a well-founded, well-thought-out idea. The only reason I don't agree with it is because Corey Graves was the all-star doing commentary during the Hell in a Cell. Corey Graves on commentary during the Hell in a Cell match where Cody Rhodes had the torn pec, some of the best commentary that you'll ever hear. So I think Corey Graves is very capable of it. They haven't said that Pat McAfee is moving over to SmackDown with Michael Cole. Because I would say, as much as Michael Cole has been great, Michael Cole is great doing commentary on anything. It could be a broom versus a mousetrap. The Jackass mousetrap that Sami Zayn got stuck in, and Michael Cole would do amazing commentary for it. Pat McAfee's commentary on the Bloodline stuff has been incredible. So maybe there's some of that there. I think it has more to do with how they want overall shows to sound. I think you're going to have shows with specific identities. I think SmackDown moving to USA, they're going to want it to have a certain sound. I think Raw on Netflix, they're going to want to have it have a certain sound. I think expectations are very high for Joe Tessitore, and I think that they should be. I think that's going to sound different, but if it works out the way they want it to, and I think probably the way Joe Tess wants it to, then that's going to have a really big sports sound to it. So I don't know. I don't think that they would ever make that big of a move based on, just that sort of one story, unless it really was just this is the story we're going with. But I don't think so, but it's not a bad situation. All right. Let's call it there. Let's go. Well, I don't know. Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's go to Brent's email. This is the last one. Brent says, having listened through a bunch of other listeners' fantasy bookings on the show since Rock came back, it seems that most pitches involve him getting shut down quickly and justifiably because a lot of people don't understand. Oh, it seems most pitches involving him get shut down quickly and justifiably because a lot of people don't understand what a member of the board of directors does or how much power they wield. Hell, even The Rock inaccurately called himself the director of the board. I don't like this already. I don't like emails that email in to correct other emailers. It's like, if I'm telling my daughter, hey, you did that wrong, and my son comes in and goes, yeah, you did it wrong, I'm like, yo, dude, I got this. That's the energy I get when an emailer emails in to correct other emailers. Like, I got this, dude. Now I'm having to correct you. Okay? Also, like, you're talking about who's boss and everything. We're talking about stories here, okay? I think he just wanted to put himself over for being on a board of directors. I appreciate the email. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate it. But I'm not going to have an emailer calling in to correct other emailers. We're all a community here. Nobody's better than anybody else. Come on. Get with it. Appreciate you guys tuned in. Appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen or watch. Subscribe to listen and watch, as a matter of fact. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Notsam Wrestling. Leave a comment. Click the thumbs up, like button. Subscribe, do the whole thing. And then subscribe on audio, whether it's Apple, whether it's Spotify, whether it's a SiriusXM app, wherever you get it. And leave a rating, leave a review, 5 stars, do the whole deal. And we'll see you real soon for another Notsam Wrestling. Thanks, everybody.